And so, for the first story that we have for you today, let me discuss a little bit about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Now, chances are, if you are listening to this, you know very well what this movie is about, and you have seen it. I mean, generation after generation, almost 80 years now, that this movie has been graced onto the public, and a lot of people would argue that this could possibly be the most important animated feature ever made. I mean, this is the first one that really got the public's eye around the world and gave the notion that maybe there is a chance that animation can be used as a medium in order to create feature films. They're not just cartoons anymore. These are characters that you can legitimately feel for, not just laugh, but, fall in love with, to be feared at, to cry, and all that kind of stuff. It really was the first animated project that really experiment with giving its audience emotion. And this is one of the big reasons why the Disney company is pretty much where it is today. Snow White can arguably be as important as Mickey Mouse or Disneyland. It really was the animated film that defined an entire medium. And guess what? Disney is doing a live-action reboot of it, because of course. Now, specifically the news of what is going on, going into my source here in Variety, is that Disney is thinking about making a live-action reboot based on Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It will be live-action, however, they will maintain the musical aspect of it. Now, even though nowadays they do not know who's going to be directing the feature or the actors that they are going to get for it, they have brought in some people, most of which coming from La La Land. The exception, of course, being the writer, which is Erin Cressida Wilson, who recently worked on The Girl on the Train. The rest, however, they got Mark Platt, who is the producer of La La Land and is also producing Mary Poppins Returns, but they also got Benj Pasek and Justin Paul to come in and write some new songs for the feature. Now, what is actually pretty interesting, however, is that this is not the first time that Disney announced that they want to do something in the lines of a live-action reboot with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Beforehand, they have actually announced a spin-off film, in a way, called Rose Red, which is based on one of the characters from Grimm's fairy tale, and they want to have a bit of a spin-off story that would be about Snow White's sister, in a sense. And you know what's honestly really surprising about this announcement of Disney making a Snow White live-action reboot? It's not just because technically they got Snow White covered with Rose Red and all that stuff, but it's also because it's been done already. Not by Disney, but some of the other companies. We all know about Snow White and the Huntsman, but there's also Mirror Mirror. So technically, that's already been covered twice even. So why Disney would want to come in and try to put in their cards on the table when it's already been proven that it doesn't necessarily work with Mirror Mirror? But okay, I know that with Snow White and the Huntsman, that turned out to be a hit, but then when that sequel came in not too long ago, that pretty much flopped immensely. What was it again? Huntsman something? I don't godforsaken care. But yeah, you'd think, considering that other companies have already covered the story of Snow White, that Disney would want to put it on the wayside because it's already been covered. It's been done already. We don't need another, live action reboot of the story of Snow White. But no, Disney decided, you know what? I guess our interpretation of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is different enough to deserve a live-action reboot. And that's pretty much the story that we have gotten so far. And let me be honest with you guys, like many people, I'm up to the point that I'm starting to get a little bit tired of hearing these news pop up over and over and over, because the thing is, whenever Disney seems to be developing, or they're thinking about making a new animated, or not new animated, but I mean a new live action reboot of one of their animated films, the media just jumps into it. Like, you see websites like Variety, Deadline, The Hollywood Reporter, and all those websites, they would immediately jump in and make it like a headline story, try to really make it big. And honestly, because of that, it's starting to get so tiring. Like, I'm starting to really get to the point that I am equally as tired of hearing this as much as I was tired of hearing, like, every single stupid thing that's going on with the Ghostbusters reboot back during the spring and summer, and all the stupid things I hear about Donald Trump, whatever bullcrap thing that he does to prove himself that he cannot be the president of the United States. Oh, hark! Is that the sound of keyboards typing furiously coming from triggered commenters? I just somehow find that really amusing. I don't know. It's really funny. Or like, it's both amusing and fascinating how people can get so easily triggered that, like, just the mere seconds of mentioning politics, like somewhere in a video or wherever it may be, because somehow they act like it's forbidden to talk about it on the internet. I don't know what it is. I just really find that amusing. Oh, it brings me such humorous joy that angry, triggered people can be ridiculously sensitive for the smallest of things. But anyways, going back into the Snow White ordeal that we have here, is that, you know, the funny thing about, like, all the big news that Disney is trying to make all these live action reboots is starting to get to the point that it really is getting ridiculous. And now I'm really starting to doubt if all the things that they have announced is legitimately gonna happen. Like, now I'm starting to be like, yeah, I don't think all of them are gonna legitimately happen. Because here's the thing, when you look back at every single announcement that Disney has made that they're gonna make a live action reboot of this, or they're gonna make a live action reboot of that, like, they have announced so many to the point that if they actually are gonna do it, then that pretty much means that they're pretty much covered for the rest of the 2020 decade. Because when you look at their schedule, Disney is pretty much planning to release only like 1, 2, maybe even 3 annually. They're not going to release a whole bunch at once. They're just going to they're going to spread them out just a tiny bit at a time. And, you know, looking at the entire list, you know, I highly doubt if, like, all this is legitimately going to happen. Like, I'm going into my, once again, going into Variety, they actually have this entire list of all the different movies that they want to make. And, like, I'm starting to be even doubtful. I mean, like, they want to make a Pinocchio movie. They want to make a Peter Pan movie with the director of the Pete's Dragon reboot. They want to do a King Arthur movie that might go a little bit in the lines of, like, The Sword and the Stone. They want to make, Winnie the Pooh, but give it that 2010 Alice in Wonderland touch where Christopher Robin is now 18 years old and he's back in the 100 Acre Woods and all that kind of ridiculous stuff. And, you know, I don't think it's legitimately gonna happen because it's up to the point where the idea is just in development. I don't think it's officially greenlit yet. I mean, if you're curious about the ones that might actually happen, like the ones that would have the strongest chance to actually happen, then you don't go to websites like Variety or Deadline or The Hollywood Reporter. I'm not saying they're not legitimate sites. They're really amazing, they're really amazing film journalism websites. Like, what they do is absolutely professional and, like, they know their stuff. But what I'm saying is that, sure, they're immediately reporting it, but that doesn't mean, like, the project is greenlit. It doesn't mean that Disney is officially doing it. If you want to know the ones that Disney might actually consider doing the most, then you don't go to those websites. Instead, you go to Disney's official websites. Like, you go into the official website of the Walt Disney Company, or you even go to Oh My Disney. In fact, I've actually gathered up a little bit of a list of the animated films, or not the animated films, but like the live action reboots that Disney wants to make that have actually been announced on Oh My Disney. So the ones that I've gathered so far, these include Cruella, which is going to be a movie about Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians, which is going to star Emma Stone. They got Dumbo, which will be directed by Tim Burton. And by the way, yes, I know it is the weirdest combination that you can ever think of. There is also Maleficent 2 coming in. And technically, I guess you can kind of count Mary Poppins if you would also count Pete's Dragon. There's also the Jungle Book 2 that's coming. There's also going to be a Tinkerbell movie starring Reese Witherspoon. And on top of that, there are the other ones that were recently announced, including The Lion King and Mulan. So that's about 8 projects. And like when you look into, like, on top of that, I got the list here of like the live action films that are going to be released in pretty much the rest of the decade. And like, even though in 2017 we got Beauty and the Beast that's going to be coming, but also at the same time, hold on a sec. Sorry, it's just my computer giving me a little bit of a warning. I'll do that later. Anyways, going back into 2017, there is going to be Beauty and the Beast that's going to be coming in March. And then there's also going to be another one that's going to be coming out at the end of July. So that's 2 right there. The same thing can be said in 2018, where they got an unannounced one that's going to be coming out in April. And then there's going to be Mulan that will be released at the end of 2018, around in, I believe it's in the beginning of November. But then afterwards, you got 2019, which so far they only got one plan, and that's going to be right at the end. And technically, like going back to 2018, you can also put in Mary Poppins Returns, since that's going to be coming in on Christmas 2018. So you get what I mean, that they only got technically, like, give or take, about half of all the movies that they have announced they want to actually put it in development. And especially when, like, I just mentioned movies like Maleficent 2 and Jungle Book 2. So imagine if any of the ones that I announced that got really, really successful, like imagine if Beauty and the Beast ended up being highly successful at the box office, making the same numbers as Maleficent or Cinderella or The Jungle Book. Like, who knows? Maybe Disney wants to go and make Beauty and the Beast 2. So, like, even at that, like, they'll go and pile it up to be, like, a lot bigger. So, what I'm pretty much trying to say is that with this announcement of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs becoming a live-action reboot and stuff like that, pretty much go and take this with a bit of a grain of salt. Like, highly doubt it so far, but the thing is, yeah, like, Disney says that they, or not Disney, but like, you'll hear news sources say that, you know, that Disney is going to do this, but wait until Disney would actually say something about it. Wait until Disney would, like, Disney themselves would make a big announcement on social media and all that kind of stuff. So, are they actually gonna make a Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs movie? Like, and let alone if they're also gonna do that Rose Red movie at the same time. Well, honestly, that I don't know. I can't really say much. And I mean, like, one more thing I want to add about all the different announcements that they have made with all the live action reboots that Disney wants to make. Who knows if if the trend that's going on will even last long? Because you never know in the future, maybe eventually, all these live action reboots, the quality might go a bit down and people are going to start taking notice, and they might end up making the same numbers as Alice Through the Looking Glass, and, or like, not just Alice Through the Looking Glass, but also both Alice Through the Looking Glass and Pete's Dragon. And, you know, they might even stop making these live action reboots there. So, who knows, like, which ones are actually going to be made. And even the ones that Oh My Disney has announced, like, we don't know if they're, like, even though they have announced it themselves, there's still a bit of that small chance that they could, they might not even happen. You know, like, maybe there isn't going to be a Dumbo directed by Tim Burton. Maybe there isn't going to be a Tinkerbell movie starring Reese Witherspoon. You know, you have to be cautious about these things. You can't just immediately jump the gun and expect them to actually be released. In fact, if you ask many filmmakers, they will tell you that things aren't official until a release date would officially be set for these films. So you never know. And plus the fact that Disney still has plenty of other movies that they got to release. I mean, it's not just their live action reboots based on their previous animated films. They still got, well, the animated films that they got to release, both from Walt Disney Animation Studios and Pixar, and they still have, like, plenty of other live action reboots that they have to release. Some of the stuff including, like, The Nutcracker and the Four Realms. They still got The Jungle Cruise, and they even have A Wrinkle in Time. They still got to release those. And this is not even to mention all the movies that they got to do of Star Wars and Marvel. So they really got a lot on their plate. So just be precautious. I mean, even though the ones that Disney announced themselves, they got a higher chance to actually be made than something like Snow White. But for now, there still could be something like a 20 or even like a 40% that they might not even happen. Disney might just cancel them on the spot without really asking why. So who knows what could happen. So all this to say is that, yes, we hear the announcement that Disney might actually make a live action reboot of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. But that still doesn't mean that it could actually happen. So be a bit precautious. And I guess this goes for the future. Anytime that you're going to hear Disney announce that, oh, we're going to make a live action reboot of, I don't know, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, or we announce a live action reboot of The Rescuers, Hercules, or all that kind of stuff, be cautious of it. Like, don't expect it to actually happen, because who knows, maybe in the future they might not even exist and they'll just be an idea and nothing more. Hey guys, this is Animat. I just want to remind you guys that this is just a little taste of what you can get with the Animation Podcast. This is not all of it. If you guys want to go and listen to the full episodes of the Animation Podcast, then allow me to show you some of the different ways that you can go. First off, you can actually go on the website that it is hosted on, Filmbook, so you can go directly onto there. You can also go and check out the official Filmbook Podcast YouTube page, so at least you don't have to go away from YouTube and you can listen to the podcast right there. But if you would like to listen on the go, like if you want to listen it to on your phone or on your iPad and all that kind of stuff, then you can listen to it on either iTunes or you can listen to it on Android. So those are all the different options, and if you'd like to have more info, then all you have to do is just check in the description down below. And with all that said, I just want to say thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, see you later, dudes!